Hi, welcome to Wednesday Practice Problems Answer Key. I wanted to make sure that you really understood how to do these problems, so instead of writing them on paper, I thought I would walk you through them. If you think you already know how to do it, just go ahead and scroll past this and check your answers. All right, so this is the problem, the first problem, and it also happens to be example 2 of 7-2 in your textbook if you want to follow along there. So is XYZ a right triangle? So XYZ being the name of the triangle in the capital letters, but our side lengths are 7 inches, 24 inches, and 25 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and start by saying a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. I'm going to assign, I know this is C, I'll just call this one A and this one B. So I'm going to assign this to be 7, 24, and 25. It might be a good idea to grab a calculator for these because these are pretty big numbers. You might not have those squares memorized. Okay, so 7 squared is going to be 49, and 24 squared is actually 576. That one I couldn't do in my head. I had to do it in a calculator. 25 squared we know is 225 if we memorized it. Whoops, it's not 225. That would be 15 squared. I'm going to go ahead and erase that. Okay, where's my head at? 25 squared is 625. So there we go. All right, adding them together, 49 plus 576, that's almost like adding 50 plus 576, which would get us 626. Subtract 1, this happens to be 625 over here too. So 625 equals 625. This is true. This is a right triangle. All right. And the next problem is our set of Wednesday practice problems. So, it doesn't have a picture. A triangle has side lengths of 10 feet, square root of 205 feet, and square root of 105 feet. Is this a right triangle? Explain. The first thing I want to do here is try and draw this and explain it to you. So, I have what we think might be a right triangle, and we have three numbers. We have 10, we have square root of 205, and we have square root of 105. If you have a calculator, it would be a great time to be using this so you can get exact numbers, but I don't actually have one in front of me, so I'm just going to estimate. We know that 10 is an integer, and we're just going to call it 10. Square root of 205. Well, I'm thinking back to my perfect squares, and I know that 15 times 15 is 225. I also know that 14 times 14 is 196. So I'm going to say this, 15 squared is equal to 225, and I have 14 squared is equal to 196. So it's going to be somewhere between 14 and 15, probably closer to 14. So I'm going to say something along the lines of 14.3. Okay, square root of 105. Well, I know that 10 times 10, 10 times itself is 100. I know 11 times itself is 121, so way closer to 10. So I'm going to say around, I'll say 10.1 here. So I have 10, 14.3, and 10.1-ish. Well, the longest side has to be the hypotenuse. So that means 14.3 is the longest. So square root of 205 is going to go here. And then the other ones, you just got to choose. So 10 here, and I'll say square root of 105. All right, now that I'm out of room, I'll go to the next slide and show you how to solve this. So we decided this side would be 10. This side would be the longest side, square root of 205. It's around 14 something. And this is going to be square root of 105. Again, my stylus today. Okay, so this might seem complicated, but really we just got to plug it into the formula and see if it works. Remember, we recall that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So, man, my stylus today. Let's just go ahead and plug these in. I know this has to be c. I know this has to be, I'll just call this one a and this one b. So I'm just going to go ahead and write out my numbers. I have a here is 10. B is the square root of 105. And C is going to be the square root of 205. Now, this is the part where we want to make sure we get right. It's 10 squared plus 100, the square root of 105 squared, and then the square root of 205 squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify here. 10 times 10 we know is 100. Now, the square root of 105 squared, if you were to do that in your calculator, you would get the square root of 105 times the square root of 105 equals 105. Why? Because the square root sign here and the squared sign here are opposite operations. And remember, they cancel each other out. So this just becomes 105. Over here we got the same thing, the square root of 205 and the square root sign here and the squared sign here cancel out. So this just becomes 205. If you don't believe me, check it in a calculator. Okay, so I have 100 plus 105 equals 205, and this is 205, and this checks out. So yes, this is a right triangle. Awesome. Thank you.